The evolutionary sciences speak of the ultimate reasons for things, the ultimate reasons for behaviors, a like, a dislike, a want. It has such explanatory power and it has such simplicity. So why religion? Why a political orientation? Why Donald Trump? Why the left thinks a certain way? Why the right thinks a certain way? I really believe that it's usually those topics we're told not to talk about that require the most discussion, and usually the reasons why we're told not to talk about them have to do with our evolved psychology. It taps into these ancient emotion centers of the brain that fire up people's emotions. But, there's some value to, disengaging from the emotion centers of the brain, the threat centers of the brain, and just look at something rationally as a dispassionate outsider. That's what science does. And that's what I attempt to do in my books. Look at politics and religion with some dispassion so you can really understand it. The more you understand about whatever impulse you have, whether it's good or bad, the more conscious choices you can make. The less you are aware of where this all comes from, the more you're likely just to enact things without consideration. One of the things I write about in my new book, Sex, Power, and Partisanship, is how our orientations evolved and how the threats of our evolutionary past influence our current modern day political behaviors. So one of the things I talk about is the threat of germs in outside tribes. So our fears, which reflect those threats of our evolutionary past, they fall on a natural curve. So let's take the threat of the fear of germs, for example. There are some people who fear germs very much, some people who fear germs very little, and most people fall somewhere in between. Well, when you use political orientation to predict where somebody falls on the natural curve, it maps on almost perfectly. So the more politically conservative you are, generally speaking, the more you're going to fear germs, and the more politically liberal you are, the less you're going to fear germs. The fear of outside people also falls on the natural curve. So there are some people who are very xenophobic, who fear outside people a lot, new people a lot, and other people who are what we call xenophilic, interested in new people. Not afraid of new people, but also interested in new people. More likely to engage in world travel, learn about new cultures, speak a foreign language, that kind of thing. The thing is, in our evolutionary past, it made a lot of sense to fear outside people and to fear germs because outside people could bring something like the common cold and wipe out your whole tribe, right? So it made sense to have a prejudicial psychology, a tribalistic psychology, a psychology that turned inward and was wary of outsiders because they could possibly be bringing disease. We didn't know about this universe in microbiology surrounding us at all times. We didn't know about what hand washing did. We didn't have vaccines. We have those now. So how much does that still serve us to be so wary of the outsider? And I also think of how that fear gets manipulated. So I recently saw a Fox News segment where, during the 2018 congressional elections, there was this migrant caravan moving up towards the border. It got a lot of coverage that seemed to have dropped off pretty precipitously after the election. But there was all this fear-mongering about this caravan. They're coming, and they're going to bring germs. They're going to bring smallpox. Fox News aired a segment saying they're bringing smallpox. Smallpox has been eradicated, So, but the point is, there are people, moneyed interest, powerful political interests that know this research and have an influence on these kinds of scare tactics being aired on national television to influence people in the voting booth, often to vote against their own interests, using fear as a leverage.